March 27, 2024, News Report 1. Former Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou and Chinese President Xi Jinping are scheduled to meet in Beijing on April 8. This meeting comes as a surprise because the Democratic Progressive Party's DPP, Lai Ching-te is set to officially assume office as the President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, on May 20. Ma Ying-jeou and Xi Jinping previously met in Singapore in 2015, which was seen as China's biggest concession to Taiwan. It is reported that Ma Ying-jeou will lead a delegation of 20 Taiwanese youths to visit mainland China from April 1 to 11, with the itinerary including Guangdong, Shaanxi, Beijing, and participation in the ceremony of the public worship of Chinese emperors. Ma Ying-jeou's visit is at the invitation of the Chinese side, and he hopes to meet old friends again while respecting the arrangements made by China. Xia Liyan stated that Ma Ying-jeou's visit to China to meet with old friends is normal and should be viewed optimistically. This is Ma Ying-jeou's second visit to mainland China, but last year's visit did not include Beijing or a meeting with Xi Jinping due to political sensitivity. In response, Taiwan's Premier Chen Jianren hopes that Ma Ying-jeou will advocate for Taiwan's sovereignty as an independent country in front of Xi Jinping. Ko Wen-je expressed no objection to Ma Ying-jeou's visit to mainland China, stating that some things indeed need someone to do them. Hong Kong 01 reported that another Taiwanese political figure will visit China and meet with Xi Jinping after Ma Ying-jeou, but the identity of this political figure has not been disclosed. Additionally, Taiwan's Agriculture Department's Fisheries Agency announced that the Kinmen Defense Command will conduct live-fire exercises against naval targets in Taiwan proper in April. News Report 2. President Xi Jinping and Dutch Prime Minister Rutte held talks in Beijing on March 27. Xi Jinping stated that no force can stop the development and progress of China's science and technology, but China can decouple itself. He emphasized that creating technological barriers and splitting industrial and supply chains will only lead to division and confrontation, and that open cooperation is the only choice. He hoped that the Netherlands would continue to play a constructive role in promoting mutual understanding and developing constructive relations between China and Europe. After the meeting, Rutte and Xi Jinping held a press conference. Rutte stated that he told Xi Jinping that the Netherlands' restrictions on exporting lithography machines were not aimed at China, and that the Dutch government would take all measures to protect the supply chain. This meeting was considered high risk as it mainly involved the export policy of chip manufacturing equipment, particularly lithography machines. The Dutch government implemented export licenses for advanced chip production equipment, including lithography machines, in response to a request from the United States in 2023, and many licenses are set to expire this year. In January, the Netherlands revoked some export licenses for chip production equipment to China, including 2 types of lithography machines. Dutch Minister for Foreign Trade and Development Cooperation Van Leyen stated that the primary purpose of this visit to China was to defend ASML's interests. ASML is the largest company in the Netherlands and is very important to the country. Earlier, ASML stated that the Dutch government's policies threatened the company's ability to employ talent and threatened to leave the Netherlands. Against the backdrop of the United States weakening China's ability to manufacture advanced chips, ASML has become a key player in balancing its role in the US-China tech competition. The Netherlands has limited choices because ASML has few alternatives, and most of its patents are American. News Report 3. Voice of America reported that Israeli Defense Minister Gantz is visiting the United States and meeting with Secretary of State Blinken, National Security Advisor Sullivan, and Secretary of Defense Austin. The 3 U.S. officials stated that the United States supports Israel's right to self-defense but opposes Israel's attacks on Rafah in southern Gaza. Austin and Gantz met at the Pentagon on March 26. Austin stated that the civilian casualties in Gaza are too high, humanitarian aid is insufficient, and Gaza is suffering a humanitarian disaster. His remarks were seen as the strongest criticism of Israel by the United States. Sullivan and Gantz held two press conferences on March 25 to 26, reflecting the difficulties in negotiations between the United States and Israel. Sullivan told Gantz that Israel must take more measures to expand humanitarian aid supplies to Gaza. Senior U.S. defense officials stated in an article published on March 24 that Israel's actions in Rafah are broad but immature, and the U.S. goal is to help Israel find alternative solutions. State Department spokesman Miller said on March 25 that Blinken emphasized to Gantz that there are alternative solutions that can better ensure Israel's security and protect Palestinian civilians. While the U.S. government opposes Israel's ground operations in Rafah, it has not yet stated whether it will suspend arms transfers to Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu stated that without entering Rafah, it would be impossible to completely defeat Hamas. Gantz's visit to the U.S. aims to push the U.S. to continue arms transfers to Israel. News Report 4. Xinhua News Agency reported that Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and International Monetary Fund, IMF, Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva held talks on March 26. Li emphasized that China's economy has long-term advantages in terms of its system, market, industry, human resources, and innovation. He stressed that the fundamental prospects for China's long-term positive development remain unchanged, and China will steadfastly open up to the outside world. Georgieva stated on Twitter that the meeting between the two sides was productive, discussing China's economy and the global economic outlook. She praised China's reforms aimed at seizing opportunities for high-quality growth and expressed a desire to further deepen the partnership between the IMF and China. Additionally, according to Xinhua News Agency, Vice Premier He Lifeng also held talks with Georgieva on March 25. He noted that China's economy is stabilizing and improving. Furthermore, People's Bank of China Governor Yi Gang met with Georgieva on March 26, stating that China's economy is stabilizing and improving. Georgieva is currently attending a high-level development forum in Beijing. Despite her polite remarks during the forum, she made some requests. Firstly, she called on China to reposition its economic policies to address the crisis in the real estate market and enhance consumption and productivity. Secondly, she urged China to take decisive action to complete unfinished housing construction and reduce the debt risk of local governments. Thirdly, she emphasized that relying on domestic consumption is key to achieving high-quality growth. News Report 5. The BOA Forum for Asia opened at the BOA Asia Forum Museum in Hainan on March 26, lasting for 4 days. The conference announced the attendance of over 2,000 political, business, and academic figures from 60 countries. According to the schedule, on March 26, there was no opening ceremony for the BOA Forum annual conference. Instead, a press conference was held, followed by several sub-forums and a welcome banquet. More sub-forums were scheduled for the entire day of the 27th. The opening ceremony was scheduled for the 28th, with Chinese leaders such as Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang absent. It was attended by NPC Chairman Zhao Leji, who delivered the keynote speech. Foreign leaders attending this year's BOA Forum include Kazakh President Tokayev and Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen. Former Vice President of Taiwan, Annette Lu, attended the BOA Forum last year but was absent this year. The BOA Forum, represented by Chang Washeng, chairman of the Cross-Strait Common Market Foundation, did not hold a roundtable meeting for entrepreneurs across the straits, making this year's forum of lower specifications and peculiar arrangements. In addition, the BOA Forum Institute released a report on March 26, forecasting Asia's economic growth this year to be around 4.5%, with East Asia growing at 4.3% and South Asia at 5.8%. However, if the Chinese government chooses not to participate again, the BOA Forum may lose its influence. News Report 6. According to the French Broadcasting Corporation, Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev stated on March 26, when asked by reporters, that the recent concert hall attack in Moscow was undoubtedly carried out by Ukraine. Moscow's concert hall was targeted in a terrorist attack on the 23rd, which the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for. However, the Russian government has consistently claimed that Ukraine is responsible for the attack but has not provided evidence. Russia's Sputnik news agency reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin held a public meeting with government officials on the evening of March 25, acknowledging for the first time that the terrorist attack on the concert hall was carried out by Islamic extremists. Putin still directed blame towards Ukraine, stating that the masterminds behind the attack need to be identified. Russian opposition criticized the government for overlooking the terrorism threat due to its invasion of Ukraine, despite Russia being a target of Islamic terrorist attacks. On September 1, 2004, Chechen separatist militants stormed a school in Moscow, resulting in 330 deaths, including 186 children. Additionally, the official Russian television reported that survivors of the Moscow concert hall terrorist attack retrieved their personal belongings from the hall on March 25, which were packed in white, blue, and green plastic bags with numbers assigned. News Report 7. According to the official website of the Taiwan Presidential Office, President Tsai Ing-wen visited Ilan on Tuesday, March 26, to preside over the commissioning ceremony of Taiwan's high-efficiency naval vessels An-Chang and Wan-Chang. These Tuo-Chang-class missile patrol vessels are independently developed by Taiwan, with a displacement of only 700 tons and a speed of up to 40 knots, equipped with Sung-Fong 2 and 3 anti-ship missiles. These small, high-speed, and highly maneuverable vessels are difficult to detect and are primarily used for asymmetric warfare against enemy warships and aircraft carriers. Taiwan began developing the Tuo-Chang vessels in 2012, with the first one delivered in 2014 and mass production starting thereafter. The first phase planned to build 6 vessels, all of which have been delivered. President Tsai stated at the commissioning ceremony that Taiwan has steadfastly pursued national defense autonomy over the past few years, demonstrating Taiwan's capability and determination in potential national defense construction. News Report 8. Radio Free Asia reported that the High Court of Hong Kong declared Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai bankrupt on March 26. According to reports, the Hong Kong Construction Bank applied to the High Court of Hong Kong for Lai's bankruptcy in October 2023. Lai owes the China Construction Bank 416 million Hong Kong dollars in loans and holds a 59% stake in Next Digital, as well as the largest online media outlet in Hong Kong, Hong Kong 01. The estimated market value of these stakes is 323 million Hong Kong dollars. Lai took over the Ming Pao from Louis Cha in 1991, but according to the Hong Kong Economic Journal, he had a criminal record during his studies in Canada and subsequently resigned as chairman of Ming Pao. He also founded another newspaper called The Modern Daily, which ceased publication after 1 year. In 1994, he founded the CTI TV channel of CTI TV Communications, which independently reported the news of Deng Xiaoping's death but incurred losses of $100 million after 3 years and was eventually sold to Next Media. Lai also acquired Asia Weekly and Multinews, but Multinews closed in 2022, and the editorial staff transferred to the Dadi Group under Hong Kong 01. He invested in the Chinese film industry, owning the Dadi Cinema and City Cinema brands and distributing films such as Confucius and Cape No. 7. News Report 9. On March 27, the Chinese stock market experienced a decline, with all 3 major indexes falling. The Shanghai Composite Index fell below the 3,000-point mark, closing at 2,993 points, down 38 points. The Shenzhen Component Index fell 226 points, closing at 9,222 points. The Chinext Index fell 40 points, closing at 3,502 points, and the Growth Enterprise Market (GM) Index fell 51 points, closing at 1,789 points. According to Bloomberg, since February, China's national team has bought over 50 billion yuan worth of stocks. However, based on the current index performance, it appears that the national team is slowing down its market entry pace. On the other hand, the renminbi exchange rate is beginning to weaken. As of March 27, the offshore renminbi to US dollar exchange rate was 7.2574, and the central parity rate was 7.0946. The market forecast deviation expanded by 1,300 basis points, showing a significant deviation between the renminbi's central parity and market prices. According to Reuters, the renminbi has depreciated by 2% since the beginning of the year, and the market expects the renminbi to further depreciate. Even with state-owned banks intervening in the market, the renminbi experienced its largest single-day reversal in 3 months. Traders suggest that if state-owned banks had not intervened, the renminbi exchange rate could have fallen to 7.23. Meanwhile, the Japanese yen to US dollar exchange rate fell to 151.97 during the Asian session on March 27, hitting its lowest level in 90 years. Japan's Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, and Financial Services Agency held a meeting on March 23 to discuss how to address this issue. Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso stated that bold action will be taken if necessary to curb excessive volatility in the foreign exchange market, and the market expects the Bank of Japan to intervene in the yen exchange rate at the 152 level. News Report 10. The Chinese government announced on March 27 the appointment of Tao Ling as Deputy Governor of the People's Bank of China. Previously, the last personnel change at the People's Bank of China was in December last year, appointing Zhu Hexin as Deputy Governor and Director of the State Administration of Foreign Exchange. This personnel adjustment includes 1 chief and 5 deputies, with Pan Gongsheng as the chief and the deputies including Zhu Hexin, Zhang Qingsong, Xian Changneng, Lu Lei, and Tao Ling. Tao Ling, 52, has served as Deputy Director of the Financial Stability Bureau since 2013. Additionally, People's Bank of China Governor Pan Gongsheng stated in a speech at the BOA Forum that China is formulating a financial stability law, aiming to take preventive measures before financial risks accumulate excessively and to handle risks quickly and efficiently after they occur. He emphasized that both excessive accumulation of risks and inability to handle risks are detrimental to financial stability. News Report 11. Daily Economic News reported that there have been incidents of gold store closures resulting in victims losing over 400 million yuan. The stores involved include 6 stores in Beijing, including the China Gold Store in Fuli Plaza, Shuangjing, and Shandong Gold in Beijing. These stores promised customers safe gold custody and claimed that the gold in custody would appreciate, inducing customers to purchase gold and not retrieve it, resulting in the sudden closure of the stores. However, these stores are not directly operated by China Gold and Shandong Gold but are franchise stores. The owner of the franchise store involved has been arrested on suspicion of absconding. The report pointed out that China Gold and Shandong Gold bear some responsibility for the incident. News Report 12. According to the United Morning Post, Chinese Minister of the International Department of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China Lu Jianchao attended a forum hosted by Lianhe Xiaobao in Singapore on March 27. When asked about the natural flow between the ministers of the International Department and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Lu Jianchao stated that such a flow is natural. He further pointed out that there is a lot of flow between the International Department and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs personnel, stating, "Several of our colleagues have worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs," and emphasized the excellent cooperation between the two departments in advancing diplomatic goals. Lu Jianchao also mentioned that there is frequent communication between ministers of various departments. His remarks seem to imply the possibility of him becoming the Minister of Foreign Affairs.